Coming up on this edition of Carolina Insider, South Carolina lawmakers are introducing legislation to promote safety for students in universities. Also, a new bill making its way through the courts lets parents loosen the reins on their kids. But first, state legislators are proposing several new controversial laws. Carolina Insider starts now. Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Caroline Wolfe. Today, we put our focus on the state legislature. A range of new laws are making their way through the system that could impact the lives of people across the Palmetto State, including here on campus. State senators have passed the Compassionate Care Act out of the committee. The act would legalize medical marijuana, allowing the purchase of up to 2 ounces if doctors authorize it. The bill moves on now to the full Senate. Members of a House subcommittee are considering a bill that would ban abortions after the heartbeat of a fetus is detected. For most women, this would be about 6 weeks into pregnancy. According to an ABC News Columbia, the subcommittee will hold additional hearings on the proposal. And the state newspaper reports that the state's hands-free bill may not pass this year. House lawmakers sent the bill back to committee to further discuss fines and penalties. Another bill could change the way people raise their kids. Kelly Garcia has more on the so-called free-range parenting.
Seen as the opposite of helicopter parenting, free-range parenting is the idea that children who are old and mature enough don't always need adult supervision as long as their basic needs are met. The bill would amend the state's child abuse and neglect laws, allowing children to do activities without a guardian present. Mother to an employee at the South Carolina Department of Education, Audrey Shiflett, is in favor of the new bill.
I have 2 children, and I like to feel that I can make determinations about giving permission, for them to go and be out in our neighborhood unsupervised. We have a local park that is really safe.
Senator Vincent Shaheen, who introduced the bill, believes giving kids some independence is not neglect.
So the goal is to make sure that parents realize it's okay to let a child who's of a reasonable age do normal kid things like stay at home if the parent runs out for an errand, if the kid's old enough, to walk to the park, to walk home from school. The goal here really is to leave those decisions with the parent and to let government understand that unless there's some abuse or neglect going on, that we shouldn't be getting involved.
Meanwhile, setting a minimum age requirement has been tricky for lawmakers, ultimately leaving that decision for parents.
One kid's 10-year-old, it might be okay to leave them alone for a half an hour, but another kid who is 13, it might not be appropriate.
The bill just passed in the Senate Judiciary Committee, leaving it now in the hands of the full Senate. Kelly Garcia, Carolina Insider.
Senate lawmakers are also looking to protect student rights here on campus. Here with today's Cocky Spotlight is McKenna Cieslak. McKenna?
Thanks, Caroline. South Carolina legislators are working to extend a law that would require student organizations to publish conduct violations. In 2015, Tucker Hips, a pledge of Sigma Phi Epsilon, died after a hazing incident. The following year, the Tucker Hips Transparency Act passed, which requires universities across the state to publicize all violations of conduct by student organizations. That act is set to expire this June. House lawmakers, including Representative Gary Clary from Pickens, have drafted a new bill in hopes of turning the act into permanent law.
When we passed it, it had a sunset clause in it, which means that, and it was passed in 2016, that it would end in 3 years. So we're coming up on that 3-year mark this summer, and it was very important because it's certainly working.
Members of the General Assembly are in the midst of voting on whether or not to keep the provision for good. Back to you in the studio, Caroline.
Thanks, McKenna. Continuing with campus news, something for sports fans to cheer about. The Lady Gamecocks are heading to their 7th consecutive Sweet 16 this Saturday. The Gamecocks will play Baylor in Greensboro, North Carolina. According to Gamecock women's basketball, tip-off will be at 2 p.m. It's officially spring, which means that it's event season. Here's a quick look at a few events in today's Carolina calendar. If you're looking for something to do this weekend, Indie Grits has started. The festival will run until Sunday, March 31st, with events including film screening and concerts. Individual event tickets cost $10, while the film screening range from $6 to $11. If you need a little bit more time to plan, the Columbia International Festival will be taking place next weekend, April 6th and 7th. Admission is $7 and parking is $5. Children 12 and under are free. To make it even cheaper, you can find a coupon online that will save you $2. That's it for this edition of Carolina Insider, a student production here in the Kennedy Greenhouse Studio in the School of Journalism and Mass Communications. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here next Wednesday.